So, Neil, what is the one thing that truly maximises the value of someone's home when they go to sell their property?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the key thing is understanding why their buyer may be interested in the property and what they're looking to get from the move.
Yes, I think I know where you're going with this, but I may be embarrassed myself, so I'm going to let you elaborate.
Okay, well, just to give you a bit of background, I have had, strangely enough, I didn't grow up wanting to be an estate agent or a letting agent. Um, my initial earlier career, which was 10, 11 years, was in direct marketing. Was very successful in direct marketing, working for a number of international agencies on pretty eye-watering brands. I was lucky enough to be part of the team that launched the Rolls-Royce Phantom in the UK. And at the other extreme, I was also on the team that helped launch Rustler's microwave burgers in the UK. Pretty much the whole spectrum.
Yeah.
So I gained a hell of a lot of direct marketing experience. And direct marketing is the branch of marketing where you do something and you expect a response from it. It's not pretty brand awareness, getting your name out there stuff where you really don't know if it's working or not. It is, spend £1, get more than £1 back. So I spent 10, 11 years doing that, became very successful at it. And then what do you do then? You jack it all in and you set up a letting agency in the Northeast, which what I did. Cold start, no properties in the window. Spent a good couple of years planning it, drilling down to the minutiae of the spreadsheet of the cash flow and all the rest of it. A week after we launched, the credit crunch hit. That was good fun. So those spreadsheets, rip them up, start again. Got through that mainly thanks to my sort of marketing knowledge and experience, which I think allowed us to basically get through that. Grew the business for 10 years, sold it in 2007. And since then, what I do is essentially combine the two skill sets. So all of that 10, 11 years of really good, potentially sometimes award-winning direct marketing stuff with being in the trenches, growing my own agency and ultimately selling it. And when I did sell it, I spent a couple of, about a year away from property completely. I just needed to take a step away. And that allowed me to have a really good look at what agents are doing, the good, the bad, the ugly. And there's a number of key common things which come about. And getting back to the original question, marketing isn't really complicated. A lot of people would like you to believe it is complicated, but it's not. I could sum it up in 15 words.
Go on.
It's the right message to the right market, using the right medium at the right time. And what most agents get wrong, most small business owners get it wrong, is they concentrate on the media. You say to an agent, oh, what marketing are you doing? Oh, I'm doing Facebook ads. Oh, I'm doing leaflets. Oh, I'm doing TikTok. That's not the marketing. That's just the channel of communication you're using. And where they get it wrong is you should really focus on the message. And the way you get your message to actually cut through all the clutter is you understand what your seller wants. You understand what your buyer wants. And that is the fundamental breakthrough, that if you understand that and you apply that to everything you do, that's going to be pretty groundbreaking.
So what you're saying is it's not about you as an agent, it's about them. So never about you as the agent, it's all about them.
100%. 100%. There's a lot of willy waving of people showing pie charts of market share and all the rest of it. Most people couldn't care less about that. Most buyers couldn't care less about the real detail of the property, because fundamentally You know, how many radiators it's got and what the room dimensions are isn't really what's driving the move. You know, buying a house, moving is a bloody expensive thing. It's stressful. It's time consuming. There's got to be a really serious reason that's going to cause someone to voluntarily go, you know what, I'm going to sign up for all of this stress and trauma and cost. And there's humans, and this is interesting because we were talking about social media. Social media hasn't changed the world of marketing. It's just a new channel. People are still pretty much motivated by the same stuff that motivated them 100 years ago, 200 years ago when we were in caves. It's fundamental stuff like looking good, not being stressed, having an easy life. You know, these are fundamental things that if we can, you know, survive on the planet for another 1,000 years, they'll be the same motivators.
Yeah.
So when I'm writing a property description, which I do for a number of clients, you know, when I'm writing a property description, it is not about you know, whether the kitchen's got a Korean worktop or not. That's not really that important. What's important is, you know, the pleasure that the buyer is looking to gain from the move. Could have a fantastic garden, south facing, decking, perfect for entertaining and all the rest of it, if they're a sociable family. Or it could be they desperately want to get the kid into the school catchment and they're moving for that reason. And clearly, once you understand, it's a bit like matchmaking, it's a bit like blind date. Once you understand what the ideal buyer or tenant is looking to get from the move and what it is about your property that can actually tick that box, that's your job done.
Yeah. And that's how you built a successful letting agency.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this exactly the same principle applies to lettings. I mean, one of the key things that was fundamental in me building a successful letting agency was something which I think equally terrifies most agents, and that is not appealing to everyone. And this goes back to advertising your property. You know, you want it to be speaking to a particular sort of person. Clearly, you know, a first-time buyer is going to have different motivations as to a downsizer, as to an investor. But you'd be surprised, or you may not be, about how many agents just think we throw as much stuff at a wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
A similar principle applies to agents who want to grow their business. One of the key things I do, because I also work with agents on a one-to-one basis to help them to grow their businesses. And one of the first things that we need to understand is who is it who you're going to want to focus on. And lots of agents just basically go, anyone in my town. Well, that's never really going to be the recipe for success, because, you know, again, a first-time seller is going to have very different fears, concerns, motivating factors than a downsizer or someone who's, you know, trying to offload an investment property.
Yeah.
And agents who cotton on to that and go, no, I'm going to concentrate on people in this particular part of town, or people who've got 3-bedroom semis to shift, or people who've just got bungalows or something. You know, it's an American phrase and it doesn't sound as good in British, but, you know, the riches are in the niches.
Yeah.
And that terrifies most people. And the same principle goes through, you know, you can build a very successful letting agent or estate agency business by being very focused. And similarly, when you're writing a property description, well, I call them property listings, not property descriptions. It's semantic, but it's important, because a property description tells me that it's got a radiator in the room and, you know, a double glazed window, which is uninteresting. You know, you apply the same principle to a property listing. You want to attract and repel in equal measure. Yeah.
And, you know, and I agree with that. And one of my things when I get asked questions from sellers, either face to face or with on my TikTok or on my Instagram, etc., and they're asking whether they should have a bath or remove it for a shower, or they're asking if they should, like, you know, put a conservatory on the back of the house. I always say to them, whatever you do, you must have your buyer in mind. Who is going to be the ideal buyer for the property? And basically, whoever that person is that you then um, uh, do the following. So, bath or shower, take the bath out, put a shower in. That's okay. Most men are happy with having a shower. Yeah.
Yeah.
Men like baths too, but they're happy just jump in the shower, get out.
Yeah.
The woman in the relationship, if they don't have children, for example, we're now talking, this is about, say, a 2-bedroom flat that they're looking for, or if it's a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom house, the woman in the relationship straight away is thinking about little Johnny and little Sally when they do come around, and where am I going to
Yeah.
bath the kids? So why?
Absolutely.
So don't put the shower in, or put a shower in, but keep the bath, because if you end up putting a shower room in, as I was speaking to somebody earlier, which did exactly that, they put a wet room in. Guess what happened? It repelled the buyers that otherwise would have been perfect for the home.
Yeah. I have it all the time. When I'm helping clients with their listings, quite often, and interestingly, quite often an agent comes to me and says, "Oh, do you write property listings for big expensive properties?" And I go, "Yes, I do, but I also write property listings for small cheap ones too." And interestingly, the agents that have their listings for small cheap properties done professionally get the impact, because the marketing bar is higher for your executive property. You throw the kitchen sink at it. Having a properly written, professionally written property description for a 2-bedroom terrace is when you start being noticed by potential sellers.
Yeah.
So one of the things I notice in a couple of areas where I do write listings for clients, it's a typical terrace, back-to-back terraces, where they have a bathroom downstairs at the back. Now, using the example that you just said there with a family, if the bedrooms are both upstairs and they're thinking about, little Johnny when he comes along, having to traipse downstairs through the kitchen or with him sopping wet through after bath time upstairs, that's something that is going to be a major factor. And therefore, if you have got one of the you've got one of these terraces and you've got the opportunity to actually fit the bathroom on the first floor,
absolutely do it.
You should be doing that. But crucially, what agents don't do is they don't go through that conversation that you've had. And when they're writing the property listing for that property, they just regurgitate all the standard estate agency crap. We're proud to present this 2-bedroom terrace. What they should be saying is, look, it's got the bathroom on the bloody first floor next to the bedroom.
Yeah, totally. And again, so it's all about them, never about us. So from a seller's perspective, it's all about marketing to them. Would be, what is the difference, Neil? So if I'm with a buyer, again, I'm all about them and it's what they want when I'm qualifying them, for example. But for the seller, how would we market to a seller? I know we're going slightly off piste here, but how would we do that?
Well, it goes back to what I talked about earlier. It goes back to finding out who your ideal seller will be, whether that's someone who's in a particular life stage or has got a particular type of property, or someone in a particular geographical area. And the key thing I think there, the starting point is showing them that you have a real deep understanding of who they are and what they're looking to get from the move, again, which is very similar to what I said before. Showing the expertise. You can have a list of testimonials and case studies as long as you're on, but if you're trying to attract people downsizing from a big 5-bedroom property and all of your testimonials are from 20-somethings, 30-somethings who've sold flats, people want to see people like me doing stuff that I'm about to do. So that's where showing that deep understanding. You don't want to be jack of all trades and master of none. You want to go, look, I really know this area. I really know this property type. I really know what you're looking to get from the move in terms of where you're about to go.
Yeah.
And showing that expertise. In my second book, 5 Mile Famous, which is all about creating a point of difference in your local area, I use a 5-step framework, which I call the A-list framework. And the A of that A-list is authority. You need to show expertise. And I know the phrase local property expert has, been taken over by the purple people and all the rest of it. But, every town or every suburb needs a local property expert. I mean, it's one of, it's a British obsession. And, you as the estate agent or letting agent are surely in a far better position to stand up and be the person who people look to than, the taxi driver or the florist.
Yeah.
So, establishing that position of authority and expertise is the starting point. And the more specific you can be, the example I use is all of the, you think of the property people who might be on telly, Kevin MacLeod, Sarah Beanie, Martin Roberts, all the rest of it. They only talk about a very particular part of the property market. So Kevin MacLeod does all the big, grand designs, eco, spectacular stuff. You don't see him going back to brick on a 2-bedroom terrace.
No.
But that's what you would with, the Homes Under the Hammer crowd.
Yeah.
So if you think about all the people who have achieved that level of fame in the property market, they're not talking about everything. They've carved out their own little, 16th of the pizza.
Yeah.
And that's what they focus on.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I love that because, and it's so true. My Zero BS estate agency TikTok channel, it wasn't, even though I knew it would be polarizing, I was trying to give the right information to buyers and sellers and agents who want to listen purely on the basis of zero bullshit.
Yeah.
And I knew that would turn people off. And people have said, no way am I ever going to give you a property. I just think the way you talk, the swear words that you say, there's not a chance that I'm giving you my property. And I'm like, look, that's absolutely fine. That is, and to be honest with you, that is perfect, because it just meant that I've not, and you and me haven't wasted our time visiting each other, because if what comes with Zero BS is results, and I'm results driven, and you don't want that, and you don't, because of the way I come across, ultimately I'm representing you. And if you don't believe that I'm best placed to represent you, then perfect. Because Absolutely. There are other people that have called me off the back of my TikTok and said things like, can you sell my house? I love the way you think. I love the way you, but so for me, it became deliberate in terms of never set out to be that way, but actually when I started to understand it, it become that way. So I ended up marketing myself to a specific type of seller. Absolutely.
Yeah. No. Well, I think I've said it before. Good marketing should attract and repel in equal measure.
Yeah.
And I think people are terrified of that. But, for example, when I'm onboarding a client, I always insist on having even if it's just for writing property listings, which can be done remotely, I always insist on having a Zoom call. And none of my current clients will be offended when I say it. I say it's to make sure that I'm not waiting for somebody in the area and all the rest of it. The real reason is just to see if you're a tosser or not.
Yeah. Are they going to make you ill if you're working with them?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm unapologetic about it. When I'm going out doing cold outreach to people, the style I have is very polarizing, and I've had responses back from people going, what an incredibly strange email. I don't think there's a fit. We'll never be able to work with each other. Oh, great. Yeah, that's half an hour of my life avoided, having a conversation.
And so going back to then the one thing that truly maximizes the value of someone's home when they go to sell their property, I will absolutely, and tell me if I'm wrong here, right? But and I'm in total agreement with everything we've said. Effectively, authority means not just authority in the local area in terms of truly being the expert agent, but the authority means that the seller knows, likes, trusts you, believes in what you say, So when you say the house is worth 500 grand and you know all the other agents are going to say 575, you're going to win the instruction because you have that level of authority that resonates, that message resonates with that particular seller.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I mean, we could go into major depth about it, but it's all about the relationship that you have with that seller, probably before you set foot in the door to do the valuation. If you've been able to, if they feel like they know you through the social media activity, you might have got them on your email list. You may be emailing them. If they know, like, and trust you before you walk through the door, then and they don't to the other 2 or 3 people who are doing a valuation. If you come along with a lower number, they're more likely to believe you because of that position of trust.
Yeah.
And they're more likely to believe you if you have, recommendations about the work that they need to do, or how the property needs to be staged, or if you're wanting, if you're saying to them, well, I really need to focus on this sort of an ideal buyer, and write the listing in that way, present the property in that way, and they go, oh no, well, we wanted to appeal to everyone, and you go, nope, that's not going to work. So yeah, absolutely, that trust, it puts you on an equal footing.
Yeah.
So it's not, you tugging your forelock and being the subservient, yes sir, yes, yes. You are the trusted professional. Yeah. They are coming, they have a problem. They are coming to you because they feel you can solve that problem.
Yeah.
So it needs to be a position of, at the very least, you're equal. If not, you are in a higher position than them. Yeah. And many agents, and it goes back to the fee discussion as well. Oh yeah, I'll slash my fee. Just give me the business. Well, you're automatically on a loser there. But I think one of the things, just to conscious of time, one of the key things that understanding, going back to the original question, understanding who your ideal buyer is allows you to tailor the messaging to attract them. Because one of the key things which changed the way I thought about marketing, and it comes from a genius guy that nobody, even if they are marketing nerds, will have heard of, a guy called Eugene Schwartz. And what he said is, you can't create demand. You can only channel or direct demand that is already there. And to do that, and that's quite, it's both subtle and complex. You need to understand who has that demand and what that demand is before you can create your message to do that. And the example I'd use to sort of put that into the context is, if you're trying to rent an 8-bedroom HMO, but you're in a tiny little hamlet in the Peak District, you could employ the best copywriter in the world and the best photographer in the world. You're not going to rent your 8-bedroom HMO in a tiny little hamlet in the Peak District because there isn't the demand. So it's about channeling the demand that's already there to you, and you do that through the messaging.
Yeah, but what you're saying, obviously, you're an expert in your field. You've been doing it for a long time. You also have the background of being integral within a state agency, within the local areas, etc. But what you're actually saying, it's multifaceted. It's not just a simple, here you go, here's the message. Because that example of the HMO in the hamlet, absolutely couldn't agree more with that. And this is so when sellers are getting the 3 standard agents around, how do they choose? Everyone's wearing a nice suit, everyone's got a nice pair of shoes, everyone's drives a nice car, everyone's saying things that potentially sound nice. Somebody may say something that you're like, oh my god, I will never ever give that to that agent because they have just tried to sell my property cheap to sell it to one of their developer mates, when in fact that agent could have actually been the one is going to massively increase the value of the property. But how do they choose? And I think what you're saying now is so important, and it's a really good level of understanding for people listening right now, agents and sellers as well, right? Is when a seller now, if they're listening to this, could ask the agent, so how are you going to market my property? Oh, I'm going to chuck it on Rightmove and I'm going to put it on Zoopla. Versus someone's working with you. Oh, right, let me tell you.
Well, I think most agents at some point in their career have faced the fee question.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a quote from Seth Godin. You'll know Seth Godin, another marketing genius. And whenever I'm doing a presentation, I'll usually have this slide in my presentation. Seth Godin says, if your customers just care about fee or price, that's because you haven't given them anything more interesting to care about. And that needs to be at the heart of an agent's endeavors. So when they're going along to the valuation and the other two have been in before or what have you, your sellers will choose based on fee. If everybody looks the same, smells the same, has the same shiny suit and drives the same car, you need to stand out, which again terrifies most people.
Mm-hmm.
Stand out, nail your colors to the mast as offering something different, mindful of the fact it might be for some and not for others.
Yeah.
And I think that is, that's a fundamental shift. That, whether you're specifically going for the high end stuff, whether you're specifically going for the investor stuff, or whatever, just know who it is that you want to work with, because there's no point having your shop front window full of properties, all of which are owned by people who you really just can't stand.
Yeah. Because,
no,
it's true.
Because you might earn your fee at the end of the month, but you'll be absolutely,
it's painful.
It's painful. So there's got to be a fit in terms of personalities and all the rest of it. And if you asked me sort of what it was that sort of cuts through me like a stick of Blackpool rock, it's differentiation and standout. That's the key thing that will help you attract the right sort of sellers and landlords. It's the key thing that once you have got the instruction, that will help you attract the right sort of buyers and tenants. It's differentiation and standout.
Yeah. And then leading on to that, when we're talking about, okay, fine. So now we're getting the message across. We've then got the trust of the person as a landlord or seller or whatever that we're speaking to. They trust us enough to listen to our marketing price. So we're pricing it. When agents say, we're going to market at this 600 grand to fully test the market, but the house is only worth 500 grand, but they've just not said that. They're not fully testing anything. They are only fully testing someone's patience. That's what they're testing. Versus if now the seller truly trusts them, the agent has actually shown the comparable evidence. They've actually made things sound plausible. One of the things I used to say to sellers evaluations to help me stand out was because I was up against another 100 agents, all saying things that sound nice and all with massive KPIs. The way we run our franchise was always go for the second sale. But it was like, I'm still getting beat up by these liars, right? How can I stop getting beat up by these liars? So Tom Panos, Australian agent, one of his early episodes that they used to do, him and John McGrath, was like a minute, a podcast lasts for a minute with a quick tip. And one of those tips was, property's not in isolation, it's in competition. And I was like, oh, I like that. So I then would say to a seller, right, and I'd prove to them as well. So basically what we're saying is, for a flat like yours, we've got another 25 currently on the market in this postcode. The 5 other postcodes surrounding this one, so W9, W10, NW10, NW10, W2, W11, etc. There's now 300 flats within a mile radius of where we're standing right now. So what are you going to, so would you agree with me, property's not in isolation? And they'd say yes. I say, right, it's in competition, right? So you're now in competition with all these other 300 flats. What are you going to do to get the very best buyers away from what they're currently looking at to come and see yours instead?
Yep.
And the sellers would go, huh? What? Actually, what are we? Yeah. Okay. And it was almost like a critical thinking moment of what are we actually going to do? Because none of the other agents spoke about the competition. None of the other agents showed the actual what the competition is doing, what things are selling for, what the pounds per square footage is. None of that. So that really helped me. I had a podcast at the time as well called I Love the Grove, which was all about Ladbroke Grove businesses and advertising those guys for free. but that enabled me to get that level of trust as well in that area, that I could start to become a bit more of a trusted authority. And then when I was learning to put the right questions to already people that already know, liked, and thought highly of me, and then I'm asking them that question, they're like, yeah, absolutely, John, yeah, fucking hell. So sort of a long-winded way of saying, if agents start off with what you're suggesting, which is differentiation within the marketplace, that then you then start to build your leadership and that tribe that care about you as the agent, and then they take on your recommendations, which then mean you win instructions, which then mean that you have the ability to market a property correctly, including price, which then creates the competition with buyers that are already set up because they're going to a house for little Johnny and little Sally later. So everyone, all the ingredients in that is now super tight.
Yeah.
Effectively, is that what you're saying?
Yes, and I couldn't agree more with what you said before. You know, you can. It's wonderfully powerful if you can ask the right questions. You don't need to know the answer to the questions, but you know, you can show your expertise and get people thinking, why hasn't anybody else asked me that? Again, you don't need to necessarily know the answer, but just by putting that seed of, you know, thought in someone's brain is quite a powerful thing.
Well, imagine this. Imagine I asked that question and that person said, well, John, I'm only getting you round, mate, because I just wanted to see what you thought on value. I actually run a very successful agent just up the road, and I'm selling the property myself anyway. So I know exactly how to do it, but at least I now know. Do you know what I mean? And also I'm judging, and I'm looking in that question. I'm putting them on a scale from 1 to 10. 1 is, do they really need loads of hand holding? No problem, but hand holding, but they believe what I believe. Or do they really know what they're talking about, but they're just like, John, just fucking sell it for me, mate? Or are they going to fight me when I'm asking those type of questions? And then if they're fighting me on it, and okay, fine, they may be asking plausible questions, but if I don't have a plausible answer, obviously I'm an idiot. But if they're going, nah, mate, I don't believe you. Really, what? And also you're trying to charge me 2%. You're having a laugh, mate. The other agent said 1%. Guess what? I'm not doing. I'm not even going to get involved in selling that house because I'm clearly not right, and they're not right for me.
Yeah. And it's having that strength, especially, you know, in a quiet market when you may be desperate for instructions. It's having that strength to go, yeah, I could very well do with this instruction, but it's not right for me. You know, that's easy to say and difficult to do in tough times.
But you know, but this is the thing. It is difficult to do, and it is horrible not winning an instruction, especially if you know it's been positioned incorrectly. And good agents suffer when they see a property go to market, and it's like, man, that's just, oh my God, the mistake that seller's just made is horrific. That affects good agents. Good agents will be pissed off. But also good agents will be prepared to walk away from a sale if it's just not right. Because they're like, why would I make myself ill by trying to do something I know is impossible? And now that seller believes it was me that valued it at a certain price, or it was me that said a certain marketing method, and it wasn't, you know? I just think it's just, I think what you've been saying, mate, is so refreshing, so wonderful, so beautiful to hear it. Because you've not done the cliche agency thing. You've actually gone, no, this is what I'm standing for. This is what I believe truly maximizes the value of someone's home, and that is matching buyers to sellers, and this is how you do it. And then honestly, it's just wonderful, mate. Wonderful. Honestly, Neil, you've been fantastic on this podcast. Thank you so much for coming on. In the show notes will be all of your details about how agents get in contact with you for the copywriting, etc. Thank you so much, mate.
No worries. I mean, very easy. neilwhitfield.com, links to everything all there.